Hello everybody, welcome along once again to the Rebel Wide Ball, and would you believe it, we got as far as the 100th edition. Fingers crossed. Anyway, so where else to start only last weekend's brilliant All Ireland Final, and after the match, neutrals in particular were talking about the quality of game. Okay, some people said that it wasn't the classic of other eras. I'm not going to enter into any argument about that, but from what I could see, it was a good bit better maybe than a lot of the so-called classics. And as I mentioned to you before, this All-Ireland winning Kerry team has a special place in the hearts of everybody from Kerry obviously, but particularly around the Kinmare Templenoe area, because it's a record number of representations with the 4 lads from Templenoe, the 2 fellas in Kinmare. And I was a little bit late to the party that on the extended pan you've got Donald O'Sullivan from Kilgarvan. I know everybody talks about the kicking, the point scoring that we witnessed last Sunday between, you had David Clifford and Shane Walsh. It was just absolutely incredible. And Gaelic football, I'm not saying it needed that, but I think there's sometimes, I don't know what it is, that those that follow Gaelic football maybe that they tend to be a little bit critical. I'd just say this to you, if to the hurling final, it would have been a game for the ages in Dublin. Anyway, I suppose as I said to you, and for the people in that part of South Kerry, and last night, what an incredible occasion it was in Kinmare for the homecoming. It just got me thinking a little bit that you have these people still around the place on about the split season, including a few well-known former Kerry players who reckon that the All Ireland Final should go back to September. As I've said to you before, these guys just don't have a clue about what's involved in a county in particular, like Cork and other counties that operate the dual mandate. They do it in Tipperary as well. Look at Lockmore, Castleiney. And I'm only, at this stage, I've said to you, time out a number. They either, they don't know, they don't want to know, or they know what's good for their pockets in Dublin. But thankfully, things have, like the favour that this thing is receiving is unbelievable. And as I said, another thing crossed my mind, maybe July homecomings. What was it like in Limerick 2 weeks ago, in absolutely beautiful weather, or just over a week ago? And last night in Kinmare, what it'll be like in Dingle tonight. And when I was leaving Kinmare last night, I met a former GA player, club player in Cork, good player he was too. I believe careful, I don't want to identify him completely, but I would say he's a Garda based in Kinmare, and they did a brilliant job with the traffic management and all that. And he just made, I just said hello to him, didn't recognise him first when he the uniform and all that. And he said, just look what that means to those fellas down there. Have we any chance ever of beating them? And he was referring to like the way the Kinmare Club organised it, all the underage players, and they looking up and the whole town full of people cheering on the heroes, their local heroes. I'll tell you one thing, he wasn't a very happy camper. He was doing his job professionally. But anyway, that's all part of the crack. And of course, another thing that struck me last night, when they were finished on the stage, the local lads were down around the square, those of you that know Kinmare. And you had the 2 splans, remember, they were standing alongside on one stage. But all the people around that visited the place, all they wanted was a selfie or an autograph with the legend that is their uncle Pat Spillane, as you know, who retired last week from the Sunday game. And it's incredible the amount of correspondence he has received from all over the country. I know some of you have different views maybe, but there's no doubt about it. He was one, I think, mighty pundit, and gone too early, I would say, from that. But anyway, that was his decision. But the amount of correspondence he got, there was a rumour that he received even a few bob on the post from Lum listener. I think he had a bit of it spent when I met him last night. Anyway, that was that. Of course, last weekend saw the retirement of the incredible Brian Cody, and again, you had different views of that, but I presume if you didn't like him, it was because 24 years, 11 All Irelands, 18 Leinsters and 10 leagues was the only reason you didn't like him. And as I said somewhere, we miss him walking the, when he donned that baseball cap, spit in the hand, and driving on his Kilkenny. I wonder who's going to get that. And I'm talking about a lot of these, I mentioned the 60s clubs. Jack O'Connor, going on 62 years of age, look what he's done. Last Sunday, I reckon, was his 13th All Ireland. Would you believe it? Yeah. Between schools, he started off 30 years ago in a small school in South Kerry, Scully, winning All Ireland Vocational School, then Colossian and Skellige, again vocational school, the inter-county vocational schools, he was involved in that, and then of course at the Home Cup, the Cornivery, Cork Minor, or Kerry Minor under 21, and all up to senior, his 4th senior title. And look, his place is guaranteed in Kerry folklore at this stage. And then we had the news during the week of another guy heading towards 65 years of age, Colm O'Rourke, taking on the Meath footballers. And if that doesn't inspire Cork when they meet in the league, because this guy, I've heard him make a few comments about Cork in the past, off record, and to say he's not incredibly enamoured by the county, so it might be, who never knows, a driving force for Cork. Anyway, that was all last weekend. I suppose we're now looking forward to the Hurling Club Championship that's starting here, and I had a quick count between the 5 county championships from Premier Senior to Premier Junior and Junior A in the divisions. There are 62 championship matches, so any person who thinks there's not a match out there for them is absolutely greatly mistaken. So it starts, like, we'll have a quick sconce through them. We'll talk about the 5 championships that they have in Cork, and the ones organised by the county board. The Premier Senior, in Group 1 you have Middleton playing Douglas and Kanturk playing Newtown Chandram. And I suppose, look, the Middleton Douglas game is the big game on Friday night in Park Arena. The games Friday night are at 7:30, and Middleton are the county champions. Look, Douglas, I suppose, they were last week in the football, they were missing several players because of injuries, some of them in America, and I presume maybe not as much. Like, I think there'll be more of their hurlers around than there was footballers, so it should be a good game. I still think Middleton should win that one. And then it's Saturday 7 o'clock in Mallow, you have Kanturk, the newly promoted guys, up against Newtown Chandram. That's a kind of, a local derby of sorts. I'm not too sure how that one would go. There was a time when it would even be considered a contest, but Kanturk have improved and they have some good players. I know they're very much a dual club. You saw last week 7 of the Walshes getting all of their 4-13 in the match against Ballahona. So the second group, then you have Glen Rovers, Erin's Own, Piercing and Bishopstown, and Glen Rovers and Erin's Own. That's Saturday at 5 o'clock in Park Arena. Erin's Own, I think, surprised people last year. I suppose Robbie O'Flynn is incredible work for them, and then you've got Patrick Horgan. That's going to be a real interesting one in terms of how that pans out. I wouldn't be surprised if Erin's Own would have got the nod there. And then, as I said, Bishopstown and Piercing. Look, Bishopstown obviously are the only kind of dual club there. They were beaten last week in the football by Fermoy, which is a bit of a disaster for them in one sense. And Piercing, I think they'd be the team that would win that one. And finally, in the Premier Scene of hurling, you have the group including SARS Blackrock, Finbars and Charleville, and we've SARS and Blackrock again in Park Arena. That game at 7 o'clock. Look, Blackrock won the county championship 2 years ago. They're still around the place. SARS are really, they're one of the leading clubs. So again, I think a top class contest should ensue there, in terms of the equalness of the two teams. Bars and Charleville, and this is going to be really, Charleville won the senior 2 years ago, and they, they're a good side, but Bars, who have had a few ropey years, and now, Gerard Cunningham is back in charge. I know they're going to make a huge effort again, and they're a great dual club. And of course they'll have the Cahillans, the Castlehaven footballers back in action for them. So yeah, I'm not too sure how that will go, but Bar certainly would be hoping and would be very disappointed, I would say, if they didn't win that one. Moving on to the scenery, Group 1, we've Newstown, Mallow, Klein and Fermoy. Newstown and Mallow, they've met so many times. Contrasting fortunes last weekend in the football. Mallow, both of them are very, very much dual clubs. Mallow, a surprise win, it must be said, over Ballincollig, and they'll obviously be buoyed up after that against Noosastown, who didn't have, well, they did okay in the second half against Nemo Rangers, but they are the most dual club that you will find at this level. They are the same players, and what is it? The sum of the parts, oh my God. So I think Noosastown would probably get over the line there. Clyne and Fermoy, and Clyne would be considered a team down that might be struggling this level, did okay last year. Fermoy again would be, buoyed up by their victory over Bishopstown in the football, and that game goes on in Dungooney. Both of those games at 3 o'clock on Saturday, the Mallow game at Coachford. The next group then is an absolutely incredible group, I would say, in terms of competitiveness, and two teams can come out of it, and at the same time you could get a team here that could be fighting relegation. Father O'Neill's, like you've seen how they have progressed and have been at the top end of this championship. You have after that you have Blarney, Courcey Rovers and Killa. Now, with Father O'Neill's and Blarney, they meet Sunday 2 o'clock in Caherlag, and this is those Blarney have a number of players involved with Cork. Father O'Neill's likewise. That's going to be some match. And the other game then, Courcey Rovers, last year's Premier Intermediate champions, and some champions they were playing a renewed Killa, who were so unlucky not to get through to the group stages. I think that's going to be a massive match. And the final group here, Carricktool, Bride Rovers, Ballyhane and Ballymartle. We have Carricktool meeting Bride Rovers in Middleton, and again Carricktool, I think, were unlucky last year. Did they come down after extra time? I don't think it was penalty. And Bride Rovers, with the 2 Roaches, they've always been a formidable side. And then you have the meeting of Ballyhane, who I'd say admit they'd be happy enough to stay up against Ballymartle, who were probably a little bit in decline as well, to where they were a number of years ago. So great games there. Moving on to the Premier Intermediate, which has always been an absolutely massive championship, or a massive championship, I suppose you'd call it. And when you look at the first group, Castleines, Carrigaline, Eire and Watergrass Hill. Castleline playing Carrigaline in this school Saturday at 3 o'clock. You'd be a brave person to call this one. Castleline, obviously the slight favourites. Eire, who were so disappointing last week in their football performance, should get over Watergrass Hill in Blarney. In the next group, Bandon Valley Rovers, all in Enniscarra, and again a brave person trying to pick the top 2 here. Bandon were relegated from the scenery last year. They play Valley Rovers in Noosastown, obviously a local derby on Friday night, and then on Saturday 2 in Riverstown, all in Enniscarra. And I suppose, look, you'd have to kind of maybe fancy Enniscarra, principally because they've got Sean O'Donoghue. No other reason for kind of saying that. The final group, this you've got Ballinhassig, Kilworth, Castlemartyr and Ballincollig. Ballinhassig, who came within an ace of reaching the final last year, will take Kilworth, and of course Ballinhassig now very much a dual club as well. That game gone on Watergrass Hill Sunday 2 o'clock, and at the same time no, this game is switched actually. It's gone from 2 to 5, and it's gone from Ballinlough to Ballygavin. That's Castlemartyr, last year's Intermediate A champions, taking on Ballincollig, and both of those teams winning championships in the past. So I'd imagine that'll be another close encounter. The seeding Lord would be really, and the handicapper would be delighted with what we've said about those championships in terms of how competitive they are. And then moving on to the Intermediate A, again, you've got the 3 groups, and the first group, Ahada, Middleton, Lisgould and Blackrock. A really East Cork feel to this one. Both games, first of all, Saturday, you've got Ahada playing Middleton, and Ahada, I think, are the team that came down, so you'd fancy them maybe against Middleton's second team in Castlemartyr, and Lisgould and Blackrock. I think Lisgould, who won the championship last year to come up, will be too good for Blackrock. Then the next group is Clodagh, Ahabolog, Douglas and Dungoordy. The Mid-Cork Derby, Clodagh and Ahabolog. Ahabolog tapered off big time last year. They did win the football last week. Will that do them against Clodagh and Ballyhanley on tomorrow night at 7:30? And then Douglas' second team against Dungoordy. I kind of go for Dungooney there, not with any great conviction, oh by the way. And then the last group, you've got SAR second team, Mayfield, Kildare, Meelan, again, so competitive. Both games Sunday at 3 o'clock. SAR's meeting Mayfield in Whitechurch, and Sarsfield's second team over the past couple of years has really been the leading second team in the county, and Kildare and Meelan in Buttevant, and Kildare drawing the football last week after having a really poor season last year, so I think that they'd be happy enough with that one. And finally, this group, which I would call the Houdini group, because they were going to be out of, these were all meant to go back into their divisions, but the county board make a decision, yeah, we're going to have a 5th grade properly structured. It's called the Premier Junior, and I think it's a good decision. And the teams in a group, when you have Kilbrittain, who got to the final last year, and Kilbrittain and Milfield, who play each other, Barryrow and the Bears, and Kilbrittain I think would be Sunday at 4 o'clock in Coachford. I think Kilbrittain would be slightly favourites in that game against Milford. Barryrow and the Bears, well, if the championship is the Houdini championship, the club in it is the Houdini team in it has to be Barryrow. How they have survived season after season, just staying above the absolute whiff of a bacon slicer. They play the Bears in Ballinasig, and that's going to be tough one for them. The next group, Ballygavin, Arragideen Rangers, Dripsy and Ballygiblin, last year's junior champions, who took us all the way to Crow Park. Ballygavin play Arragideen Rangers, and nothing between these two. I know that Arragideen Rangers are very much involved in football in West Cork. Didn't perform that well last week. Were lucky the week before, so maybe like they're trying to concentrate in both of them. Sure, Ballygavin are as well in terms of at junior level, so I think that's going to be, I can't call that Sunday at 2 and Sunday at 4, then Ballygiblin and Dripsy. Ballygiblin would get our vote in that one. And you know, when you think that Cathal O'Mahony, who would be Cork's leading forward, will be flaky into hurling in this match, this is the dual nature of this county, and whereas some people would have different views, and isn't it absolutely great? They're two, you know, Gaelic games, hurling and football, and everything should be done to promote the clubs that play both of them. Then we have Glenrover's second team, who were relegated last year, Tracton, St. Catherine's and Russell Rovers. I think Tracton should get over at Glenrover Sunday at 4 o'clock in Ballinora, and Russell Rovers and St. Catherine's. Toss the coin there, my friend, and that one, it's in Killa on Friday night. So they're kind of the games, and then of course you have all the games in the junior championships, and look, they're for the clubs involved in them, and we'll be keeping an eye on them as we kind of move towards the championship. This weekend is ladies football final, and for the first time I think since 2004 to 2020, this championship dominated by Cork and Dublin. None of them are in town. And that in itself is incredible. I wonder what the attendance will be like. They've set a record attendance, do you remember? No. You have the Women's Euros on in Wembley on Sunday. And they reckon that will be setting a record. And then we have the Irish soccer team taking on Finland in the Aviva on the 1st of September to qualify for a playoff in for the World Cup. Another big attendance expected there, and it's great that this is happening, but work to be done, of course there is. But in the ladies football final, Meath, who 3 years ago were playing in Division 3 League final, last year, remember it well, Cork had them beaten, then the 2 goals, and the next in Meath, we beat Dublin to win the All Ireland. They're taking on Kerry on Sunday. Kerry, who haven't won this title with 29 years, and there was a time when they were one of the leading counties, and at the start of this season, some of you that follow this closely will remember that they played Armagh in the Division 2 League final. But anyway, for this Meath team, they use the term, this could be the last dance. Some of their coaching staff are moving on, including this strength and conditioning fella, Eugene Ivers, who's going with Cullimore Oaks Meath, and then you've Vicky Wall, who's going off to play Australian rules. So is Ola Lally, and then one of their other players, Emma Troy, is taking a break. So maybe, is this it for them? But anyway, Kerry, as I said, 29 years of waiting, and when you think of players like Louise Murray-Hurtig, my God, does she deserve to win an All-Ireland medal? Like, she is the David Clifford of that team, and then you see Fleur O'Shea and Danielle O'Leary. So yeah, it's going to be, it's a big day in Croke Park. Unfortunately, Cork are not there, so maybe we might have the same interest, but you have the junior match, the junior final 11:45, and for the teams from Antrim and Fermanagh, and then Laois and Wexford in the intermediate. There's a girl playing for Laois, her name escapes me, and in the semi-final against, who was it, Clare, she ended up only scoring 1 goal and 14 points. Anyway, for those of you that follow soccer, well, the good news for you, it's on the way back. This weekend we've got this charity, it's called the Community Shield now. It's between the Premier winners and the FA Cup winners, so it's going to be Man City and Liverpool, and then the championship starts off Friday night. I don't know whether we've any Huddersfield supporters. Remember, they got to the playoff final last year, and they take on the team that were relegated, Burnley. So the Euro finals, it's England and Germany, and England, I don't think have ever won this. Germany have won this championship in about 6 occasions, and last night when they defeated France, I think it was their first goal conceding, but England had a really impressive win as well against Sweden. Remember, Ireland played them earlier on, so England won that one 4-0, so it's going to be absolutely, you know, they're getting huge attendances in this, and I know you're going to be all supporting England in that one shortly. Just to finish up, if you like, a big match in football, if you're around with Cork, is the Creedon Cup Final. This is a competition jointly hosted by the County Board and Macroom GA in memory of a great footballer, Tom Creedon, and taking part in it are Macroom and Kilnamartyra. Now, they're near neighbours. It is on at 6 o'clock on Saturday. Peter O'Leary is the referee, but I suppose, am I surprised that this game is going ahead? These two teams have 2 serious matches coming up in the football in just over a week's time. Well, I suppose, yeah, the weekend after next now. Both of them beaten last weekend. Nemo beating Kilnamartyra, which was, I would say, a big shot, beaten by a point, and Rockchapel, the mighty Rock from up there in North Cork, beating Macroom by a point. So, anyway, they tell me that this is an all-out affair. Both of them really want to win this one. I think they have 5 titles between them. Then we have, next week we'll be talking about the Camogie, obviously, but this 3 Cork teams have got to a Camogie final. The intermediate team last week, a great win for them, and they are now in the final. And of course the senior team were lucky to get over Waterford, and Aisling Thompson, if the story about her, if it was a male story, to be incredible in terms just alone of, you know, she was sent off in a match and got off in a technicality last Saturday morning, seemingly under the wrong rule. But because it was Camogie, nobody took any interest in it really. But by God, did the Cork team take interest. 22 minutes in the match against Waterford, down 4 or 5 points. Aisling Thompson was sent on, changed the face of the game. Now, there was outstanding performances as well. Saoirse McCarthy getting them player of the match, and Libby Coppinger was outstanding too. But they're now in the All Ireland Final, and they play Kilkenny that Sunday week. But this Sunday at 1:30, I think it's in Mallow, the All Ireland Under 16 Camogie Final, and that's going to be Cork and Tipperary, so the best of luck to those. And finally, we've been asked to mention a festival, and I know there are festivals all over the place, and you know, it just dawns on me that the amount of work that goes into running these, and they're a huge part of Irish summers. And those of you that, you know, maybe holidaying around Ireland will appreciate that. Anyway, the one we've been asked to mention is the one organised by Adrigole GA Festival, which runs from tonight until Sunday, and there's a whole host of programmes, so interesting. But the 2 that I want to bring to your attention, it's the world's biggest duck race, and that's on at 6 o'clock on Sunday, and you can buy a duck for it online or whatever, and you can get the duck, a dope duck, if you intended to win or lose. But as well as the duck racing, they have actually sheep racing. Don't tell me, but and you don't have to bring your own sheep. A local sheep will be supplied to you. Now, whether you get the back breeding or not, as to how your sheep has performed or not in the past. But anyway, look, if you're interested, go down there. Anyway, my God Almighty, thank God we're nearly finished. Look, as I said, this is the 100th edition of this, and look, it hasn't got a huge audience or anything. For those of you that, it brings any bit of whatever it's supposed to bring to you. I sincerely thank you for staying with it for as long as you have. So until the next time, take care.